prayer right now.
You do it. You're on it.
Awesome. Well, good morning, welcome, and thank you for the opportunity for me to come and be with you here today. St. John Random Lake has a special place in my heart for a number of reasons. One, St. John Random Lake has been just a great supporter of Charitable Lutheran High School, my alma mater, and I know back in the day, in the 90s, when I was in choir, we came and sang here more than once. So again, it's just good to be back with all of you. If you wouldn't mind, join me in a word of prayer before we begin here this morning. Good and gracious Father, thank you for this opportunity to be with your people here at St. John. Lord, I would just ask you continue to open up our hearts and our minds, that the plan that you have laid on our hearts, that we can clearly articulate, Lord, and make sure that it is a plan that not only honors and glorifies you, but takes care of our families and the ministries that are so near and dear to us. And Lord, today, thank you for everyone that's been able to attend. And Lord, I just ask, again, be with us here today. And Lord, let us learn a little something that we can take home and pray about. And again, Lord, glorify you. All this and the things in our heart will be at your feet. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
So as a quick introduction, so we get to know one another here. My name is Craig Turp. I am with the LCMS Foundation. I have been now working for the LCMS Foundation for the last 3 years. Prior to my role in the foundation, I was the Director of Stewardship and Gifting at St. John's in West Bend, which is my home congregation. And during that 10-year period, I was helping families put together estate plans. I would also run any capital campaigns that were in our congregation. I was supporting the school and helping raise scholarship dollars. So for other parents, I was also working with our school choice program and helping families get into that program, working with the script program, and just pretty much anything that had to do with raising funds or getting people to know Christ. That was what I was doing. Before that, I worked at Concordia for 5 years as a director of annual fund and gifting. And before that, the Lord had me in my first call as a Lutheran school teacher in Orlando Lutheran Academy, which was a 6 through 12 school. And I taught there, cutting my teeth within church work. And, you know, as the Lord saw it fit, that's a ministry that is no longer with us. That's a ministry that had to close because of lack of financial support and lack of students. So Valencia Community College purchased it, which was right across the street, and that school, what used to be my first call, is now a parking lot, which is a little, you know, disturbing, but you know, it's the Lord's hand, and we don't know how the Lord's going to work sometimes, but we know His will is what's best. So I am married to my wife Leah. We've been married for almost 20 years. This is my oldest daughter, Sophia. She likes to come with me on these presentations, and I really appreciate that. You're always a great helper, so thank you, Sophia. We have 2 older boys, Jacob, he's going to be 15, Aaron, who's 13, Sophia, 11, and then our youngest daughter, Emma, she's 9. So we're going to have one at Living Word Lutheran High School next year, and one in Living Word for the next 10 years. So you can pray for me and our wallet too, because that's a journey, right? But today, I really want to just speak with you off of the invitation by the Pfeiffer family, but also Pastor Gillespie, on this statement right here. Provide for the people you love and the ministries you care about. I, like you, have plans. Sometimes my plans are not what the Lord's plans are. I went to school to be a physical therapist. That was not the Lord's plan for me, because I'm here with you today. But that was a journey that I had to, well, let's put it this way. The Lord let me have a little bit of freedom with my will. And finally, there was a point in my life where the Lord's like, stop fighting me and just let me put you in a position to help my people. And I don't know if you've had that in your life where the Lord has kind of taken you on your path, but that's where we are today. And what I want to help all of God's people, you know, at the foundation, it is our goal that every family, every household would have a Christian plan, a Christian plan established that not only takes care, if the Lord has blessed you with family, those that are in your family, but then also the ministries that are near and dear to you. So I want to talk to you today, just a couple of real big highlights, who the foundation is, how I can walk with you in that process, but then also, what might be some ways that you could do some giving today, that you might be hearing things about, the QCD, or Qualified Charitable Distribution. That's kind of a big one for anyone who's retired, anyone that has IRAs. You may or may not hear that term float around. I want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about a donor advised fund. And then other ways at end of life, how you can make gifts that are tax favorable to both the ministry and your family. So who is the LCMS Foundation? Working now in South Wisconsin for the last 3 years, we get confused a lot with the Lutheran Church Extension Fund, or LCEF. So a lot of the questions people ask me is, what is the difference? What is the difference between LCEF and LCMS Foundation? You know, the Lutheran alphabet soup. So the Lutheran Church Extension Fund is your savings and loan. It's your savings account, your checking account. They're there to help provide loans for church workers, but then also ministries. You want to pay off debt, you want to reorganize some debt, you want to maybe do a capital campaign, and they can help you with loaning. The LCMS Foundation, we're positioned to help ministries and individuals think long-term. We help ministries create endowments. In fact, we just created another one, less than a month ago for the school. We also help individuals look at different ways in which they can provide gifts to family and ministry, both now and or at time of death. Being creative with your financial advisors, with your tax advisors, but then looking at what the Lord has placed in your midst to manage, and how can we make sure, if you want that to go to the next generation without them paying hefty taxes, or structuring that gift so it can go to ministry to bless the wonderful things that are happening right here. LCMS Foundation, we were established in 1958. That surprises a lot of people. They didn't know we've been around that long. But again, St. John here in Random Lake, you have been with the foundation for quite some time. So you have had a ministry endowment supporting not only this ministry here at St. John, but all the families that have been blessed by that. Right now, I am in a partnership with Sheboygan Lutheran High School, Living Word Lutheran High School, and Concordia Mequon. And when all those leaders gathered, it was imperative for them, for me, to be in the churches, to walk alongside our pastors, our church leaders, to get information out. Communication can be very fickle, right? And we all know, in order for something to stick, it takes 7 to 11 times. So my role is really positioned to help church leaders, to help members know what's available, and for you to process it, think about it, encourage others, talk about it. Just a couple of brief statistics here for you on what the LCMS Foundation did last year. We were able to have just under 3,200 gifts, totaling $33 million, going to ministry. Again, St. John being one of them, a distribution from your endowment going to this ministry. That's in that dollar amount there. But when you look at the areas in which the foundation serves, we serve all ministries, but we can really break it down into the LCMS large, or capital C, big church, our churches and schools, our seminaries, our colleges and universities, that's the Concordia system, and then other LCMS ministries, like Orphan Grain Train. That might be one, or a place of refuge, another ministry that is recognized by the Lutheran Church, and then our districts. But if you pay attention to that, middle one, churches and schools, over 917 gifts were given to our churches and schools. So that means 1/3 of all dollars that are coming into the LCMS Foundation, 1/3 of all the gifts are going to churches and schools. So that's a really great opportunity for us here at St. John to recognize when people have the information, they're making gifts. And that should be something that we celebrate together. When we look at what we're doing for tomorrow, so these are estate gifts that are not coming in today but are planned and coming in tomorrow. We were able to do just under 860 at 853, totaling roughly $123 million. So that's $123 million planned for ministry for the years to come. Families that have gone through the process with me or one of my cohorts around the United States, getting all their ducks in a row to make sure that when Christ calls them home, that there is a plan for ministry. That's $123 million. And for a lot of the church leaders that I speak with, one of my questions is, how many people has Christ called home to him within this last year? And were we able to work with that family? Do we know that they have everything ready for this moment when Christ calls them home? Because it's going to happen, we just don't know when. So my role is to help facilitate. It's really to help all of our families understand what is available to you, to work through if you already have a will. What is your will? What is your trust? Most families have something done, but not all. The recent statistic is 1/2 of families have a will. So 1 out of 2 households have a will. The more scary part about that, though, is 90% haven't looked at it or reviewed it in the last 5 years. So there might be something that you created in that will initially that was right for the time, your season of life, but then things change. You get older, possibly your spouse passed away, and now things look different. My role is to help walk through those papers with you and see, is there any changes that need to be done? And if so, how can we do that? So whatever plan is on your heart, whatever you want reflected is done so, and is done legally. Because there are changes, and if there are changes, if they're not done legally, they defer back to the original will. Or if you don't have anything in place, it just goes through the process of probate. And probate is just what it sounds like. A judge determines what is in your estate. It's a public process in which people can partition or look at the estate, and then a judge decides where assets go.
Great. Are there cases where your will, because it's out of date, maybe directs something that's no longer legal? And then does that end up going into probate as well then?
Yeah. Exactly. So, or, if there was possibly a separation in a marriage, right? And you didn't update your beneficiaries, so what would happen, everything defaults back to the original beneficiary. Yeah, great question. So what I do is a little bit different than what an attorney would do with you. My role, when you look at gift planning, it's really to help you, the family, determine what is the best asset to make the best gift, and then determine, is that the best gift for family, or is that the best gift for ministry? So we're putting together an overarching plan, and then we take that plan to the attorney for them to work with you and make sure this is what you want done. Versus an attorney who will just go and make sure it happens. Their job isn't to ask you what you want done. Their job is to make sure whatever you want done is done, but they're not asking questions like, do you want to include ministry or not? What would you want to do if this scenario happens? Because an attorney doesn't want to have any undue influence on any of the changes or updates that you need to make. So when you hire an attorney, you're hiring them for whatever plan that you've put together, whether it's with someone or just on your own. That's a really good distinction between estate planning and gift planning. I want to make sure that everything is in place for you when that time comes. So these are some of the most common thoughts, questions, concerns people have had with me over the last couple of years, and I bet these might be some of the same ones that are on your heart or on your mind. I want to give to ministry, but I don't want to take anything away from my family. Very common concern. You know, families and individuals think it's an either-or conversation, when really this can be a both-and. I want to give to a couple of ministries, not just my church. Wonderful. If the Lord has blessed you with opportunities to support the big church, not just your congregation, that is great. Most people don't even think about their congregation, and I'm here to say that is just wrong thinking. We want to remember our congregation when we're making these plans because they are the ones who have been with us each and every week, are celebrating the highs in our life, are celebrating the lows, are providing God's gifts to us on a regular basis. We want to make sure we include our congregation in our plan. We love the family farm. You know, this is another one. We live in a very agricultural area. So what do we do if we don't want to pass on the family farm from one generation to the next, or that next generation just isn't interested in farming? What if we have to sell it outright? Well, is the family farm in some sort of S corporation, or is it just, you know, in a family name? Work through that with you. There are some real benefits to selling it or using the foundation to help sell it, if and when that would be the case. Most of what I have is in my IRAs right now, or a contractual asset. And if you've been following the markets right now, what has everything been doing, pretty much? Pretty much going down, right? But it's the ups and downs of the market. We know that it's long-term thinking. We also know that a majority of Americans, that if they have an IRA or a 403b, they have done very well in the last couple of years. So we have a little downturn right now, but if you look at even the past 10 years, there's been a lot of growth. In those IRAs, those 403bs, a lot of growth means when you're taking out those dollars, there's taxes involved, or if you're giving them to family, passing that gift on to the next generation, you're going to incur for families somewhere between 30 and 40% tax on that inherited gift. That's a big number. This is all confusing. I just don't know where to start. Also very common. I probably get that once every congregation. And because that's where someone is thinking about this is really confusing, then they're paralyzed by that fear, and then they don't do anything. And that would be the worst thing for you to do, because, again, we want to make sure what you have done is your plan. I know this can be confusing, but that's why the Lord's given me these gifts, to really walk with families, to help navigate what does all this mean. And then some of the obstacles. I've already have things done, or I don't know what to give the ministry. I've already given something to ministry. As we were talking about before, having a will, just because you have a will in place now, does that meet all of your needs for today? You know, has there been changes in your life? Have you moved? Have you sold something? Have you acquired something? Do you still want everything to go through your will or trust, or not? You know, what were the tax laws when you established it, when you did versus today? There's a lot of things that you just want to make sure that you're comfortable with, but more importantly, that you understand. My folks, this is a good point to share a story.
We know those people.
So, for any Sheboygan Lutheran families in the room, Sue and Jerry Turk. They've gotten a little older. My father's lost a lot of hair, like me. It's a family trait. We're at the mine shaft, and this is my folks enjoying one of their ginormous Bavarian pretzels. And if you haven't had one of those, I would encourage you to have it. They're delicious, and they're fun. But this happy photo was taken a week before my mother had triple bypass surgery. Unaware. Up until that point, she had a zero health issues, a clean bill of health. We had no idea what was going on. And all of a sudden, she woke up, she had that funny feeling, something wasn't right, she was disorientated. Before you know it, they're driving her to Memorial Hospital, and then they're taking her by ambulance to Green Bay. because there's no hospital in Grafton or Milwaukee that could take her. Triple bypass surgery within 48 hours. Now, for my father, when we were praying in the waiting room during that time, he was a wreck. And he would admit that to you if we were sitting here today. He's like, Craig, we don't have our stuff together. I have no idea what we need to do if something happens to Mom. You know, there was a lot of fear. There was a lot of anxiety because he wasn't sure what to do if Mom died. Now, Mom is with us. She is doing very well. Doctors fixed her up. She's on a much lower salt diet. Probably that pretzel would have really her these days. But I share that with you because, as Pastor alluded to, why put off, for tomorrow what we can accomplish today? I mean, that is so true. And for my folks, everyone thinks it's not going to happen to them until something happens. And then, like my father, you're sitting there holding his hand and praying with him, and you want to give him comfort in that moment, but it's not a good phrase to say it's going to be okay, because we don't know what okay means, right? I know his concerns. I know what he was going through. In my mind, I know legally what was happening. They had a will from the 80s. So right when I was 10, 12 years old and they went to Germany, that's when they did their will. That was the last time they had updated it. A lot had changed for them. So my encouragement to you, don't wait. So a lifetime plan for process. When you're looking at your folders.
Before I just wanted to say thanks for coming. I might take my kids home.
Yeah.
Rather than let them distract you from this. I'll come back and get my stuff.
Perfect.
All right.
Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you.
What I wanna just talk to you quickly is the second page. So underneath that presentation, evaluation, there's a 4-step process page. This one, right here. Lifetime plan for giving. This is what I wanted to just talk to you briefly about. So when I talk about what is a lifetime plan for giving, it's a process by the foundation to assist you in transferring the blessings God has given to you and your family. Right? That's exactly what it is. I'm not an insurance salesman. I don't sell anything. I don't make commission sitting down with you. My role is to serve God's people. And we do that in this process right here. If you want to turn the page over, we walk through what does it mean to write everything down. To actually be organized in this discovery phase, write everything down. That means all of your assets, all of your liabilities, all the people that are in your life. We also walk through who do you want to leave a gift to? What ministry would you want to leave a gift to? We walk through that all in the discovery phase. Then, number 2, in the plan design, once I have that information, I can work through and put together a plan that meets your needs. A lot of these plans are all based off of what you need accomplished. For many, many families that I meet with, this is all just making sure when Christ calls us home, things are going where they need to go. That's what this design is all about. The summary page, then after we walk through that design, I put together attorney documents if you need to visit an attorney, or we put everything together so you know exactly where things are. And then we implement that process. If we need to get you to an attorney, we get you to an attorney. If there's nothing that needs to get done outside of contacting your financial advisor to update beneficiary forms, we do that. Then once that is all completed, I give you one of these. And I just delivered the Pfeiffer's book. This is theirs. So before I forget, that's your plan. But we walk through everything. And if you already have this in your house, awesome. But one place where you have all of your legal documents, where you have your Christian preamble and your gift and design, you have duties for your personal representative. Most families, when I work with them, they don't realize everything that needs to get done for your personal representative. This is 4 pages of notes. that just helps them, who to call, what to do when they're making that phone call to the financial advisor, when they're working with the funeral director. Make sure you're getting at minimum 10 certified death certificates so they can all go to the appropriate individuals, financial advisors, etc. Clearly laid out, because if you're like me, you want your personal representative to manage your estate the best way possible, right? And for my wife, Leah, this is extremely helpful for her. She also knows there's a document on our computer that is titled When Craig Dies. It's right there, which has all of our passwords, all of our account numbers. So when she needs to start looking at that to close that, she knows what to do. She also knows how to move assets around to help take care of the children. If again, something were to happen to me. The same with durable powers for your finance and health. What are their duties? A lot of people get that confused, that durable power of attorney, is that something that is active when I'm alive or when I'm dead? How does that work? Right here, I'll put that in there with you. And then all of your other paperwork, nicely organized, that you can put on your shelf, put in your file cabinet, wherever you need to place that. So your spouse knows, your personal representative knows where it all is. I even have a funeral. If you have been thinking about or doing any type of pre-planning, if you wanted to write down what your favorite Bible passages were, what congregation you're part of, what hymns you want sung, this is an extremely helpful document for your family, or for those that are helping manage your estate. How do you want your service of life, your celebration of life, to reflect you if you don't have anything written down? A lot of families will just look to the Bible and see if mom or dad or if uncle or aunt wrote any notes down. More times than not, they don't. They just have highlighted Bible verses. Well, what a gift it would be for those that are helping when Christ has called you home to have it all clearly laid out. And you can just tuck this right in that section called Family Blessing Christian Preamble. Because what a blessing it is to have this taken care of before Christ calls you home. So again, sharing your faith, talking about that Christian preamble. Why is that important, that preamble? You are sharing why the Lord's hand in your life is so important to you. It shares that powerful message of encouragement for those that you leave behind, but also it explains some of the decisions that you made in your estate. Why are you leaving X or Y gift to family or to ministry? That can be explained in that Christian preamble. Again, as we talked about, the organization of your paperwork, all clearly laid out in a binder that you receive at the end of our process to help you and to then help those who might be in your will or your trust. So now I want to talk to you about some of the ways in which you can organize your estate to maybe make a gift now if you have some taxable assets, or something that you could do when Christ calls you home. So the QCDs, I lead with this one. This is the one where it gets a lot of conversation. So if you are over the age of 70 and a half, you have the ability from your IRA to make what is called a qualified charitable distribution. What happens with this qualified charitable distribution is it can go directly to ministry, and that is a taxable gift or a non-taxable gift to them. You don't have to claim any of those monies because it's not as part of your ordinary income. What a lot of families are doing now is they're making this qualified charitable distribution out of their IRA, instead of claiming it as ordinary income and then writing checks weekly to worship or to the congregation. They make this gift to fulfill the need of the RMD. It makes both tax sense for you and for ministry. It doesn't matter how that gift comes, but for them, they know it's there, and then they manage based off of what you have provided. One of the things that many families don't recognize or individuals know is that when you make your QCD, that credit can not influence your Social Security or Medicare. The qualified charitable distributions are limited to the amount that would be taxed as ordinary income. That's just big. You can't take an additional taxable income from what you make. That's just one of those IRS rules. You have to make it before December 31st. So whatever that tax year is, it's always by calendar end. And you can fulfill your RMD. Now, as we made the joke about the government before, not being the best with paperwork, right, for the choice program, the government has also made this a little more confusing. So with the Secure Act, they now raised the limit of your RMD, or the required minimum distribution from your IRA, from 70.5 to 72. They did that because people are working longer, which is wonderful. You can still, though, make a charitable gift at 70.5. So instead of keeping everything one number and making it simple for you, the individual, they're making it complicated. More so, now they're looking at a proposed bill that they're going to raise the required minimum distribution from 72 to 73 and then 75. So again, as we start to work longer, they want to have that RMD be extended out a little bit further, which for some families, that's great. For others, it's like, well, if I want to take it now, I wish I could. But the charitable deduction is still available. That is all to say, again, if you're not paying attention or just keeping an eye on some of these things, you may miss out on taxable benefits to you. Donor advised fund. That's another way in which, if you have a highly taxable asset and you wanted to make a gift today, you could set up a donor advised fund. So one of the things that I like to do too for our financial wherewithal is every now and then, if the Lord blesses us with a little extra cash, I like to buy individual stocks. So on Fidelity, I have a couple of stocks. And when you have stocks, we all know that they appreciate, or what's called capital gains. For me, my plan for those stocks is when it's time the cash flows out, I'm going to put them into a donor advised fund. Because when you set up a donor advised fund, I can now take that highly appreciated asset, put it in here, and I can write checks out to my favorite ministry or ministries. I get the taxable deduction the year I make the gift, but then I also get to write out 1 check, 5 checks, 10 checks to the ministry or ministries of my choosing. Donor advised funds are really, really helpful if you have highly appreciated assets. That's where they're extremely helpful. And in my case, the stocks I'm buying, with those capital gains taxes, I don't want to pass those capital gains taxes on to the kids, so I'll just put them into a fund and I'll create a Terp legacy fund through that. And that's just a simple illustration on how you put money into a donor advised fund, you can write checks out, and those go to ministry. You get a taxable deduction the year you make it. A very simple way to leave a gift to ministry at end of life is through a gift letter, a bequest. You want to make sure that St. John receives a percentage or a portion of maybe a contractual asset, or maybe it's a personal item. Well, we can do that just by a simple gift letter. And this gift letter, I help write with you to make sure that the asset is in place and that ministry knows. That St. John knows that something is coming, and then they write an acknowledgement back to me saying that we will use that gift appropriately. The other nice thing with the gift letter, which a lot of people forget about, at time of death, if you want the ministry to use that gift in a very specific way, this letter helps notify them. So if you wanted to leave X dollar amount to St. John and you want to make sure it's in the education fund, this is how you make sure that it's in writing. We don't want ministry leaders to guess where assets should go. You can even do it by saying, we have this gift for St. John and it's undesignated. Church leaders, please place it in the need where it's most needed here today. That can be done, again, by gift letter. Charitable Remainder Trust, in a very simple way, it is a trust established to help you or to help pass on highly taxable assets to family for the next generation. Created in a way that it happens at time of death, but supports those that you want to make a gift to later on in life. And I just gave a simple illustration here. You establish it now, you don't put any money into it, but then when Christ calls you home, that gift turns into an income stream to the individuals that you want it to benefit up to 20 years. It's a great way to take highly taxable assets and share them with family by minimizing tax. A lot of families right now are using charitable remainder trusts with their IRAs. Because with the Secure Act that just passed 2 years ago, families that inherit an IRA have 10 years to spend it. This can help a family stretch it out to 20 years. That's a big difference. And charitable gift annuities, a very popular asset to use if you need an income stream today. You know, back 20, 30 years ago, a lot of families would stair-step CDs because the interest rates on CDs were 5, 6, 7%. What's an interest rate now for a CD? Not even 1, right? Not even 1.
Yeah.
Charitable gift annuities, this is a really nice way to take or make a gift based on your age. Your age determines the rate, and the rate is determined by using insurance actuarial tables. But this provides an income stream for the rest of your life and or your spouse, and then when Christ calls you home, or calls you both home, whatever remains then goes to ministry. So it's a great way to guarantee that a gift can go both to you now today, but then also to ministry at time of death. And again, just a quick picture. Donor puts it in a charitable gift annuity. You receive the income from that gift annuity. Ministry receives a portion of it when Christ calls you home. So again, my role as Foundation Gift Planning Counselor, it's not to twist your arm into anything, it's actually listening to you and helping you put down on paper what the plan is that's been stirring on your heart. From there, putting together all the documents to make sure your beneficiaries are updated, make sure your will is updated. If you have a trust, make sure your trust is updated. To walk with you, making sure assets are going where you want them to go, both for family and ministry. And I do this because I work for the church. There is no cost for me to sit down and work with you. The only cost is time. If you're willing to invest some time, then I think it's an investment worth your while. So what do we do from here? Take a moment with that presentation evaluation that's in front of you. If you haven't filled out the bottom of it, please make sure you do that. Because I want to follow up with you if you have any questions that I can do that. Also in your folder, I'll just take a moment to walk with you through that folder now. If you are interested, this little booklet, Lifetime Plan for Giving, it summarizes much of what we talked about today. Telling you what the process is and why we, the Lutheran Church, are so passionate about serving God's people in this. I have a true passion to make sure God's people have everything taken care of because I want to see God's church continue for another 175 years or longer, as we prayed about and celebrated today in worship. I want to make sure that God's church continues to raise up young leaders like this, but also supports people like us in the room for future generations. On page 5, I want to walk you through that first step or that discovery phase. If you're computer savvy, You can even complete this online, or you would complete the book. And that's where we would start. You would complete the book, and we would set up that first meeting, and we would walk through everything that you have shared with me, whether it's in the booklet or if you've completed it online. I get an email saying, such and such family completed this, and they're looking to establish a meeting with you. You will see it's detailed in here. We are looking at everything in your midst, all of your assets, to include checking and savings accounts, to include any treasury bonds, to include your 401k, your 403b, any traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, your home, any additional land, if you have a gun collection, car collection, all of that we're looking to put on paper. So I can give you a one-page summary that will show you what everything the Lord has in place, and then what are the best ways for you to distribute those assets. In fact, in your folder, you should have a couple of these little diagrams. It's in the back. So it'll be on the right-hand side. So behind these gift letters and behind the Christian preamble, which we'll talk about here in a minute, you'll have these diagrams. And these diagrams are exactly that second meeting, or that design meeting, where we walk through and we see what has the Lord placed in your midst now. And as a good Lutheran, this is the estate of Martin and Catherine Luther. And the Lord blessed them. The Lord blessed them with some real estate, some cars, some vehicles, some of their household furnishings, checking and savings accounts, life insurance, retirement, and annuities. We break them down into these 4 categories so you can clearly see what everything the Lord has placed in your midst, and then we walk through what are the assets that are best to leave to family, what are the assets that are best to leave to ministry, and then I show you, if there's no plan in place, what roughly the taxable amount would be on that estate. So for the Martin and Catherine Luther, with no plan right now, they're going to owe the government roughly $500,000 at time of death, because they don't have a plan in place. And that $500,000 is coming off of their retirement and annuities. That gray box. This is the kind of planning that I'm walking with you to make sure, again, if you don't want that red box or that red number to go to the government, how can we make that into a gift that supports family? How can we make that a gift that supports ministry? You can see then, if you flip over that page, there's a little diagram that, number one, you'll notice right away, there's nothing going to government. That we made that now 0. And we're now directing assets to go to family and to go to ministry. And one of the ways we're doing that is through that charitable remainder trust that I spoke to you earlier about. We're creating an income stream for the Luther kids, and that's going to create an income of roughly $85,000 based off of the retirement and annuities that they place into the trust, to that charitable remainder trust. So Luther's children will have an income stream for 20 years based off of what they put in there, and ministry receives a gift. Again, the type of intentional planning I want to have with you to make sure that you have going where you want it to go. We're talking about those gift letters. So right here, that first page that's highlighted, letter of intent. We put your ministry or ministries in a letter like this. We put in there the direction that you want that ministry. And we're not putting a dollar amount. The dollar amount isn't important. Really what's important is that you're indicating to your ministry that you want to leave something. And if there's specific instructions with that gift, that they're noted in here. You're giving them clear direction. And if it changes, we just write a new one. But at least you now have something written down for ministry, because it's really helpful for them to know what is on your heart. How can you serve them well? And then I gave you a couple of examples of Christian preambles as well. If you've never written one before, What is a Christian preamble? This document right here. And when we sit down, at the kitchen table in your home, I even have more from families that have now shared their preambles with me over the years. Because I've been doing this type of intentional planning for 18 years now. You have to remember, I started at St. John's, before that Concordia, now at the Foundation. So I have lots of different examples, but a lot of heartfelt testimonies from families like you. So my final thought for you. Again, this isn't an arm-twisting presentation. If this is something that I can help you and your family with, wonderful. A Bible verse that provides me a lot of comfort in the work that I do, from Ephesians 2:10, for we are God's workmanship, created in Christ to do good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. What a comfort to know, again, God's will, not only for us, but for each and every day we walk on his earth here. He has a plan for us. And what an opportunity we have as God's children to live that out. And again, we live that out because we do want to provide for the people we love and the ministries we care about. So my family, that's our most recent family photo. Again, why I'm so passionate about this, I want to make sure that if God has blessed you with a spouse, with children, with nieces and nephews, that you have the opportunity to make sure that everything's in place, everything is in a way that makes tax-efficient sense, but then also is blessing the Lord's ministry. That is my conversation with you today. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Anybody have any concerns?
Well, we worked with, like I said, we got our booklet here. We worked with Craig last year. I don't know, about 3-4 meetings.
Yeah, we started in 21, and yep.
Yeah, and
Step by step.
yeah,
Step by step.
He recommended a number of attorneys, which we were very pleased with the one that we chosen in Port Washington. Also, that attorney with us, we had to set up a trust for Kyle. Special needs trust, so that was worked into that. Very pleased with everything that we have now. And like you said, our will, we had talked about, we got to get this updated, because we had appointed guardians for our kids. Well, they're now in their 30s and 40s, so they don't need guardians anymore, kind of thing. So, we had a will, but it was so outdated. And of course, didn't have anything for ministry in it.
So now you have it all clearly laid out,
Mm-hmm.
the way that you want it,
Mm-hmm.
with the help of an attorney.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm not a financial advisor, I'm not an attorney, I'm helping organize all the materials. So when you go to the attorney, it's clearly laid out. And now you have your booklet too, so when you see your personal representative, that's, not only for one another, but, when Christ calls you home, they too now can go to that and see exactly what their job is, what is where, to the point of even all the beneficiary forms, all clearly laid out in one place. And that's got to feel pretty comforting knowing.
Peace of mind, a lot of peace of mind.
A lot of peace of mind.
And the only cost in all of that was the attorney fee. And that even was given at a discount, because you worked through him. So.
That's why you're broke today. Our funds are safely put away.
But when I spoke with the attorney, he said, that's a few hours of billable hours that he doesn't have to charge the family because I did the work. So
it saved a long time.
He wants to pass. That's one example of an attorney recognizing, what we can do to help families. Yeah, very, very blessed to have that type of partnership. If you wouldn't mind, just finish filling out that evaluation form for me. What do you think? What can I improve on? You know, a good educator always asks those questions. What am I doing well? What can I improve on? And how can I help? I will come and pick those evaluation forms up before you leave. And I just want to say again, thank you. Thank you for taking the time out of your day-to-day to spend some time with myself, with Sophia. Pfeiffer's, thank you for sharing your testimony. And yeah, please.
Okay, we made our will 1 year back in the 80s. Before we went to visit Tim in Oklahoma, I said, we gotta do this.
Yeah.
You never know what happens in
Yeah.
the world. So we did, and I think our kids, probably some of Charlotte maybe had a couple girls by that time. And it always said that they're, if you know, if they died before we knew
Yeah,
it.
right.
They precede you in
And
death.
then their part would go to their issue. Well, now their issues are all over 30 years old. All three of our kids have children, and our grandchildren, I think the youngest is 24 or so. So would we have to redo the whole will then because of that too? I mean, it's outdated in that respect.
I mean, not knowing what is in your will. You know, I don't know how you've made those distributions. I don't know, you know, what your priority list was when you first created that will.
I know the guy, Jim guy, or had us go to the attorney. I don't know if it was him or the attorney too said to do the Christian grant. So I know that's in there.
Right.
And I just haven't looked at it for a long time either.
Well, you know, when I'm sitting down and working with families too, you know, 90% of what a family has is in non-liquid assets. So it's your contractual assets like your 401k, your 403b, your home, life insurance, any of that. That's a non-liquid asset. Liquid assets, checking and savings account. Okay. So when I'm walking with families too, 90% being a contractual asset, you want to make sure your beneficiaries are updated. So just walking through and making sure your beneficiaries are updated to where you want them to go, because that supersedes your will or your trust. As long as your beneficiaries are updated, they don't have to go through your will and or your trust if you don't want them to. And then I just help, you know, just create a little tracking form for you so you know exactly where those assets are, where they're going, where they were, and where you want them to go. So that way, my counsel to you is if you have everything in place, just make sure all your beneficiaries are updated. If you have, you know, in your will, let's just say you have 3 children and you have your will going to a third, and a third, evaluate that. Is that before gift to ministry or after? Is that just coalescing all the assets and trying to make it easy for distribution, and have you looked at the tax considerations for that? Because that will be a taxable gift then to family. Doing your estate distribution that way. There's something to consider. Yeah. Thank you, all of you, again, for your time. If you have a question that you didn't want to ask, and I can stay around for a little bit and we can talk, for sure. But again, I really, really appreciate your time. I know it's noon, so for that, it's time for all of you to go home and have lunch, right?
I thought you were going to take this all out.
That's the next meeting.
I'd like to check this in.
Awesome. Well, have a wonderful day in the Lord, and thank you for spending time with myself and with Sophia.
Thanks, Greg.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.
Anybody wants to take some breakfast home for tomorrow, help yourself.
Not till tomorrow.
You have to eat it before it gets too.
Yeah, I would want to turn green.
It would be wrong.
I would never want to turn green.